Hello and welcome to my lecture series in these somewhat surreal days. I'm sorry we're not all together, and I appreciate this period of isolation is very difficult for many of us. However, I hope that by absorbing yourself in my first lecture for the next hour or so might help you to feel strong and positive. This first lecture is about practicing. Practicing well can be really enjoyable, fascinating and satisfying, and it can put you in a really good mood. If I've not practiced for a couple of days, my wife will ask me to please go and practice so that I can come back a much nicer person. Being able to practice well is a life skill. It is the art of learning. Practicing well enables you to be time efficient and highly productive. Using the principles I've developed and refined in my own work as a concert cellist and teacher over many years, I have set out a plan of action, a process that will cover the aspects I feel are truly fundamental. This is an absolutely huge subject, so get your pencils ready. There will be a lot to note down. I think it helps to clearly define what is the purpose of practicing, so that we can remind ourselves how to get started when we're just not in the mood. Sometimes the purpose of practicing is simply to achieve something for ourselves, to be absorbed in being creative, to release emotions, to feel energized. Other times, perhaps more normal times, the purpose of practicing is to prepare a performance in which you play to the best of your ability, feeling really confident, feeling calm and focused, feeling excited in a positive way, and having a real sense of expressive freedom. A performance in which you enjoy getting the music across to your audience fluently, beautifully giving the gift of music. However, these are the concerns I most often hear. I don't know how much I should practice. I keep having to practice the same things. I don't get through the material I have to learn. I don't really know where to start. I get bored. I think I'm mostly wasting my time. I find practicing depressing. I think I know what to do when I practice, but when I perform, it frequently falls apart and I feel out of control. And these are the questions I'm most frequently asked. What's the best way to practice a difficult passage? Should I repeatedly play through sections to make them secure? When something goes wrong, how do I sort it out? Should I practice even if I'm tired? So I hope during the course of this lecture I'll answer these and other questions for you. After you've watched this lecture, you can send in any questions you may still have, and I'll do my best to give you the solutions. Although I'll be using my cello to demonstrate various principles, this lecture is not about pure cello techniques. It is intended to help all musicians find a more fulfilling way to practice. So I'll be presenting fundamentals that we can all apply. And for pure string playing techniques, I'll give specific advice at a later date. Practicing is the training of our minds and bodies. Like sportsmen and women, playing an instrument requires us to be elite athletes. You know how slow and clumsy you can feel after you had a holiday from playing? Well, we're aiming for the opposite of that. We need to train our bodies for precision, strength, flexibility, speed, endurance and stamina. Our brain also needs to be fast, strong, flexible, nimble and able to concentrate for considerable periods of time. And while all this is happening, we must be searching for new ideas, stimulating our imagination, being acutely sensitive to our emotional reactions to the music, to every nuance, every twist and turn. Playing music requires highly complex multitasking. We have to be able to make physical actions that are highly detailed, control hands and body or voice in extraordinary combinations. We have to have specific thoughts and physical sensations in order to control those movements. Meanwhile, we have to be consistently aware of how the music is constructed and aware of our feelings and thoughts about the emotions within the music. We have to manage our musical desires. We have constantly to be creative with our sound. We have to be aware of how our performance is being communicated. And in our practice, we have to be deeply focused on every single moment, analysing every detail so that we know how and why things happen and how to improve, how to move forwards. All of this is a major task for our brain. And in order to practice effectively, the brain power required is quite incredible. In effect, the more brain tasks you can do at the same time, the faster you can progress. For example, while playing a scale within the music, you can be aware of your overall balance, the independent movements of your fingers, hands and arms, the coordination of those movements, the quality of the sound controlled by the vibrato, the speed and position of the bow and the weight distribution. Then the shape of the phrase, the character and emotions of the phrase, the particular musical stresses, and on and on. When you realise all of that, we should at least say we're superhuman. Like music itself, the journey of learning doesn't happen in a straight line. In order to cope with the ups and downs and the moments of disappointment and frustration, we must have a clear structure, a practice method. Practicing shouldn't be entered into lightly. Crossing the line into my music room is something I have always taken very seriously, and sometimes with trepidation. The practice room is a place where you expose yourself to your weaknesses, your emotions and your worries. But is also the place where you can find your strengths, where you can find deep satisfaction, exhilaration and a frequent sense of achievement. A place where you can stretch yourself and feel the journey of increasing knowledge. It's also the place where you commune with great composers like Bach and Beethoven. Aren't we extraordinarily lucky to spend our lives with these geniuses? To be superhuman, concentration and focus are paramount. Being honest with yourself is critical. It's a waste of your time pretending that something is okay when you really know it's not. Our aim is to be as consistently positive and creative as possible. Feeling down on ourselves, feeling it is all a struggle and it's hopeless, worry of failure are all negative. So, with this regime, this set of guidelines I'm going to give you, I hope you can easily lift yourselves into a productive state that keeps you healthy in body and mind. Being positive and creative needs to be a habit, and it takes practice. 2 questions that I consider fundamental while you're practicing. Firstly, what am I thinking about? Secondly, what am I feeling? The what am I feeling question covers your emotions and your physical sensations. Every part of the practicing process requires memory. If we don't remember what to think about and what we feel, then every time we start practicing, we will be back to square one. Imagine learning a phrase, learning how the music sounds, how we have organised to play it, and then coming back to it 5 minutes later, or indeed the next day, and having to start the entire process again. Memorising the decisions you make during practice and what you noticed, what you thought and what you felt is critical to learning. Fundamentally, we must be very aware that no movement happens in your hands or body unless given instructions by your brain, conscious or unconscious. The decisions you make are brain instructions to your hands and body, organised choreographic movements that create the sound you desire. Therefore, analysing and understanding your thoughts, those brain instructions, also become key to discovering why things go well or things go wrong. In the practicing process, if we can find exact thoughts and feelings to tie to each musical phrase, to each musical gesture, and we can memorise those thoughts and feelings, we will enormously speed up our ability to learn and progress in music. If, for instance, we play with an especially beautiful sound, try to memorise the sensations, the thoughts and feelings you had while producing that sound, and what the moment felt like, so that you can remember it and can produce it again positively and easily. You might attach an image, a colour, an energy, a memory or an emotion. It doesn't matter what, but the more you attach to the actions and feelings that helped you to play that moment beautifully, the better. That memory becomes like a switch that you are ready to turn on as the passages approach next time. And then that level of equality should become your minimum standard for that phrase, a step leading to a higher step. So now, to structure our practice within our daily lives. Let's start by making a timetable, a schedule. Timetable your work for the week. How do you feel about practicing in the morning, afternoon or evening? I know we all have our preference as morning or night people, but in professional life we rarely get choices. In normal times, we have a multitude of time constraints. We have to fit in with rehearsal times, room availability, lesson times. We have the effects of time zone changes. We have to conserve our energy for rehearsals and concerts. These all limit our practice time choices. Of course, now in the lockdown, we have different types of time pressures. Perhaps our neighbours in lockdown restrict our practicing times. Right now, I think it's more a question of motivation. So let's remind ourselves how important it is to keep playing fit with our instrument, to keep the momentum in our development, to get pleasure from our involvement in music, to be expressive, to release our emotions, whichever emotions they may be. These are all healthy and helpful. Practicing regularly and frequently builds both mental and physical stamina. Let's try and practice every day. So allocate your practice times for every day of the week and write them down. In addition, here are some very practical things you can do to prepare for your practice session. Eat and drink in readiness. Start your practice hydrated and sustained. Have healthy snacks and water close to hand for your practice breaks. Think about seating, lighting and the temperature of your room. It's no good trying to be an elite athlete if you can't get warm enough or you're constantly overheating. I'd also like to talk about a physical warm-up. For 1 or 2 minutes before you take your instrument, do some gentle but large physical movements to get your circulation going, your muscles active. Let me show you some that I recommend. So start with some warm, gentle movements, rotations of your wrist and your elbows and your arms and your shoulders. Some shoulder rolls in both directions. Smile, breathe deeply. Move your body in such a way to start to activate the central part of your body. start to move in general ways to get everything very beautifully warm. You can do hula hoop exercises, which I know look really, really ridiculous, and I know you're looking at me looking crazy about it, but don't forget, you'll be alone. Nobody will be watching, so you can be as crazy as you like. Move your hips, move your arms, do some swimming movements, which are really good for your whole sense of movement and body. And I think that then you start to feel yourself warming up generally. Athletes and dancers have said to me that stretching, which is completely different from the gentle warm-up I just did, absolutely must be saved for after your practice. Distractions. I know that we are in a very restricted environment now, but try to create a practice situation that is free from distractions. Put distracting things like your phone, gadgets, to-do lists, bills out of sight. If you can see them, they tend to prey on you. And if people walking by your window is distracting, face away from the window. Now you're ready to take your instrument. I'll take mine. Start by gently playing a few minutes of some music you know and enjoy, a movement or section of something not too fast to get you in a good mood, enjoying playing music and your instrument. Play with a beautiful sound, feel good vibrations, resonances, feed your body with the resonances of the instrument. You should play more than I've done. Just make sure you're nicely warm. So now your timetable will follow a plan. I would like to explain my 3-stage plan. I highly recommend that at all times you study a selection of pieces. Stage 1, something new. Stage 2, something that is a work in progress. And stage 3, something close to performance level. For example, let's say I'm learning Elgar Concerto for the first time, so this is stage 1. Then I have Schumann Cello Concerto, which I started to learn a while ago. This is my stage 2. Then I have Dvorak Concerto, which I'm almost ready to perform. I'll work on this in stage 3. So, looking at your timetable, let's say you allocated 2 hours on Monday morning. So in that 2-hour practice session, allocate 20 minutes for each of the 3 stages. 20 minutes is an excellent amount of time to spend on each stage. Stage 1, I will spend 20 minutes on Elgar, then 20 minutes on Schumann, and 20 minutes on Dvorak. Then I will start the cycle again. Stage 1, 20 minutes, etc. This method is designed to vary your pace, vary your use of energy, and vary the physical and mental demands in your practice session. It also allows you to recover from the demands of one area while you work in another. It is hugely beneficial to your efficiency, your ability to learn, and your well-being. It will enhance your absorption of the information you have acquired and thereby enable you to better recall your discoveries and decisions. Now I'll explain the detail of how we work within each stage. Stage 1. Starting on a new piece. Elgar Concerto. Sight reading. Look carefully at all the composer's instructions, tempo, dynamics, articulations, expression markings, etc. Look at the score to roughly identify the relationship of your part with the other instruments and to see the context of your part. Slowly play through the music, phrase by phrase, stopping frequently and making initial decisions on fingerings and bowings. You should not be playing in the performance tempo or thinking about interpretation in stage 1. It is all about basic decision making with the aim of playing a short section reasonably fluently. In the Elgar Cello Concerto, it would be reasonable to set yourself the target of organising the first page. In other repertoire, you might find that 2 or 3 lines is quite enough to organise in 20 minutes. Stage 2. This is the work in progress stage. We'll be delving into the music and resolving technical issues. Today, for stage 2, which for me is the Schumann Concerto, we start by playing a short section to work on. I'll just take my cello and I'll play you the opening. Remember, I've just got to the point where I've organised the bowings and fingerings so that I can play through the section fluently. Now that you have heard the music in your ear, even in a basic state, don't straight away play it again, hoping it will be better. Take your time to look carefully at all the composer's directions. Sing the music aloud or in your head. Try and work out how the phrases are shaped. Where does the music breathe? What is the character of the music? The colour, the energy? Focus on one of those aspects and think how you can apply it. For example, changing the character of the music. Think how you're going to make that improvement. Might that be playing with a heavier or lighter bow or faster vibrato? In your head, play through the section with your improvements, imagining how it sounds and physically feels. You can either keep still and imagine yourself playing through the phrases, thinking about the physical sensations, or you can play air cello, making exaggerated movements. I've decided to focus on the character. I'd like it to be more intense and passionate. I'm going to change the vibrato and add variety to my bowing speeds. So first, I'm going to apply those with air cello. Now, take your instrument and play this version with absolute conviction. Listen intently while you play. When you have finished, consider what you have heard and felt and remind yourself what you did. Sometimes we really don't know what we want from the music, and this is a good time to experiment. Okay, so I think I feel more confident about which direction I want to go in. Now, to consolidate what I've just tried, I should once again use air cello to reinforce the physical sensations and brain directions. Playing air cello really works because you focus only on the points you want to improve. You don't get distracted by technical inaccuracies that irritate you when you're actually playing, like bad intonation or a missed shift. It's good to exaggerate any new ideas because not only do you hear the difference more clearly, but your brain more easily recognizes the different physical actions you used. Stronger sensations help you learn more quickly. When you feel you've achieved good improvements, challenge yourself further, delve deeper into the music, phrase by phrase, explore and test different interpretations, fingerings, bowing, sounds, moods, emotions. Use all these variables to search for what you feel expresses the music in a way that is both faithful to the composer's directions and to the way you react personally to the music. So be extremely sensitive to your reactions because your genuine feelings and your responses to the music, from the tiniest detail to the entire piece, will be your unique view. No one else can or will have the same feelings you have. Never be concerned that you need to find a way to play differently from others. Expressing your clear and genuine feelings in your playing defines and exposes your unique qualities. During your practice, don't be annoyed or afraid when you make mistakes or hear yourself play in a way you dislike. We learn so much from our mistakes. They are very helpful in revealing where thoughts and feelings are not clear enough, where more analysis and decisions are necessary. It's also good to discover that a certain fingering or bowing use of weight doesn't necessarily work well for a certain phrase. Again, this mistake is actually helpful. Once you're happy with a section, have some fun with it. when I played much faster, I got a sense of the bigger picture, the flow of the passage. When I played it slower, I discovered more of the emotional details, the profound qualities of each note. Making these discoveries, I have more to add to my playing of the Schumann. The time you spend working on the music in this way deeply benefits your musical development and your knowledge of each composition. This will give you confidence as you work towards your performance. I believe the never-ending creative process is profoundly stimulating and exciting. Knowing that you can always change your ideas, and probably will, is extremely helpful on the journey of learning and performing music. So that was all about exploring the music. Now we come to solving technical issues within stage 2. First of all, look through the section you are going to work on and mark in your music or on a list the passages that are causing technical difficulties. Go directly to the first of these problems and work to resolve the issue. To solve the problem, we first have to identify exactly where the problem starts, and then we need to analyse that problem. I'm going to talk in great detail about this in a few moments, but for now, I'm just going to continue outlining the work method. So, you've found your problem, you've worked on it, and when you have made some improvements, play through that difficult passage from well before until well after. Then, move straight to the next place you noted on your list. Work your way through those hot spots. Do not play from the start of the piece until something goes wrong. And don't stop and work on a random problem that happens to crop up. Stick with solving the hot spots. When you're approaching something that previously went wrong, do you find yourself becoming tense and then all you can think is, oh no, here it comes again? I often hear people repeat a passage many times over, and perhaps the 10th time it is correct. They're happy and relieved it finally went well, but they don't really know why. Later, coming back to that passage, it again takes 10 repetitions to get it right. I strongly believe that it's no good getting something right by accident. Pinpointing the actual problem starts with sensing what your thoughts are. Do you have a positive, active thought and feeling to play a particular note or line of notes, or are you simply waiting to see what happens? Here is a typically difficult passage. Out of the slow section, suddenly the music becomes fast and virtuosic. Now, we need to look at the detail to understand how to work on it productively. I'll explain slowly as I play again. Now, the run is going to start with a release of the left hand and immediately a reapplication and a fast shift and a change of string I'll go slowly again. Release. Very complicated set of movements that happen in a very short amount of time. Be very careful, for instance, when you come up. Here, the next note on the G can happen very quickly because of the momentum of shifting. You can arrive there too soon. So we have to be careful about our timing because of the fast movements we're making. Now I feel more confident because I've understood some details in this passage. Another topic in stage 2: how do we resolve intonation issues? We need to understand properly how we play in tune and what to focus on to make that happen. Alongside good physical techniques, which include posture, relaxation, good structure of hands and fingers, ability to move freely, to articulate, to be agile and fast, we must understand what leads us from one note to the next. Here's a large shift in Schumann again. We know where both C sharps are, here and here. We've played them both individually millions of times. However, when we're playing them in a piece of music, why is it that the high C sharp can easily be missed? I'm not talking about a technique for shifting here. I'm using this octave interval to explain how we change from one note to the next, using a fundamental principle of aural awareness for all musicians. We know the difference between a note being in tune or slightly out of tune is a question of microns, the minutest change in the tilt of a finger or slightest difference of pressure on the string. But we do not have the capability to measure distances between notes in microns or even millimeters, nor in any case do we have time to measure distances as we play. Muscle memory should not be thought of as a memory of measurement. It won't make you play the shift perfectly in tune just because you've repeated the passage enough times. It is essential to understand the context of notes within the music and to hear those notes before we play them. But in order to be reliably accurate, there is even more that you need. It is the power of music itself. The power of music gives us an extraordinary ability. Music guides us, often at high speed, to the correct place. Music gives us magical powers. I've spoken to brain and music scientists, and they have been unable to explain in scientific terms how we can place notes so accurately. In a way, I'm really happy about this. It upholds my belief in music being magical. So, abandoning the misconception that we can measure our way around the instrument, we must replace it with the power that guides us successfully. The power that music gives us is not just the ability to anticipate the line of notes and to imagine them in the context of the harmony and their relationship to one another, but it is the enormously powerful emotional force of music that gives us the ability to guide our hands so accurately. So in our playing, the more we commit to the emotional force of the music, the more impetus we have to play positively and accurately, the more accurately we will play. Going back to my octave example in the Schumann, use the emotional musical message. Our ear and our passion will make every note in the phrase speak without our conscious mind questioning, doubting, or distracting us from what is, after all, not so complicated. Okay, so with all this, after practicing and learning the music well, why is it that we can still play notes out of tune? I believe we must go back and check on ourselves. How accurately are we hearing the notes we're about to play? Are we feeling the power of music enough to push away those awful moments of doubt as we shift to the C sharp? Another area to focus on in stage 2 is analysing what is natural versus what is unnatural. Some physical actions are unnatural for us, like the classic patting your head with one hand while you make circular movements with the other hand on your stomach. In the music, unnatural actions can sometimes be coordinated better by arrangement, changing bowings and fingerings. Clearly identifying left and right hand rhythms and coordination is a part of noticing what is natural and unnatural. Let me play an example. This is a common tricky moment in Haydn Cello Concerto in D. I'll explain what I call a left hand rhythm. Often the final octave run causes problems. Now I'll highlight what I call the left hand rhythm. I'll clap out that rhythm. La 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 la. And if I choose a different fingering that you might consider more normal, it will create a different left hand rhythm. You'll notice the left hand rhythms sometimes are on up bows, other times on down bows. Compare the first example with the second. Down, down. And the second. Up, down. You can see that when we choose different fingerings, we can create more or less natural rhythms. So working with this idea will help you solve technical issues. Here's a passage in the Saint-Saëns Cello Concerto that outwardly seems fairly straightforward, but which many students struggle to make sound as brilliant and exciting as they would like. The right hand seems to be playing quite uncomplicated rhythms, while the left hand is pretty simple too. So what might be the problem? Looking at it in detail, we can see that the right hand is not entirely straightforward. The down-up rhythm is simple, but added to this are string crossings that are very fast and not consistent throughout the passage. Watch this. along with the normal bowing changes, these big movements I call right hand rhythms. There's also a coordination issue in this passage. We need to switch our focus between left and right hands. In the first triplet, we focus on the right hand because the bigger movement of string crossing has to control the rhythm. We then focus on the left hand for the second triplet because the left hand fingers articulate the rhythm. Right hand focus. Left hand focus. I have found that once I make students aware of these right and left hand rhythms, they can really improve and make the passage brilliant. As a general rule, when playing legato bowing, have the sense that your left hand, with its rhythms, including note changes, rhythmically leads your right hand. When playing separate bows, focus on the right hand rhythms leading the left hand. This way you have better coordination, better clarity of sound, and better control of complicated passages. Sometimes there is no possibility to change a bowing or fingering to make physical movements more comfortable. In which case, if we simply acknowledge when a movement is unnatural, it can solve the problem. Simple recognition resolves confusion in the brain and in your physical actions. By analysing in this way, recognising and acknowledging the difficulties, what is natural and unnatural for you will improve your playing dramatically. Let's stand up and move around for a little break. Stage 3. This is the point you need to start flying. Polishing, refining, working on larger scale interpretive ideas. Stage 3 is where I would be playing through the Dvorak concerto. I need to pull out all the stops and really perform. You must practice performing. You need to stimulate your adrenaline with your involvement in the music. Play right through an entire movement. Don't stop. Treat it like a concert. Afterwards, while you're catching your breath, think about your performance. Were you convinced by your ideas? Think about what needs to be improved, what needs to be changed, and then play through the entire movement again. Here in stage 3, you search for the deeper meanings, the reason the music has been created this way, and the message you're going to communicate. I think what's important when you're playing in this zone is that your awareness enables you to hear the music in your playing in a new light. It's a very revealing experience. It's when we are performing that we often learn the most, and that is why it is so essential to be performing every day. Over time, and with the guidelines I'm explaining today, you'll learn your capabilities and you'll become quicker and more efficient with your practice. Breaks. Within every stage, it is essential to take short moments of break. While you are taking breaks, recognize what you have achieved, however small that achievement might be. After finishing stage 1, take a 2-minute break, stand up, shake your arms and legs out, take some deep breaths. After stage 2, take a longer break of 5 minutes. Stand up, move your body, walk around, have some water, then get organised for your next stage. After stage 3, take a 15-minute break. Have some of your snacks and drink. If you can, go for a short walk in the fresh air or lie down and rest and close your eyes. Remember, for long periods, you've been physically focusing on the music on your stand only a metre away. Give your eyes and your brain a change by looking at things in the distance. Your creative mind and your eyes will appreciate that change. Just as a reminder, in the practice process, you will be continually amassing more and more information from the many aspects I've spoken about. Remember, whenever you play a passage, make sure you set out to play the music with a specific intention, with commitment, with determination. Only then do you have a standpoint from which to move on to improve. Referring back to the question, should I repeatedly play through sections to make them secure? Playing endlessly over and over does not make something more secure, in my opinion. It effectively means you play something once and then you try to play it exactly that way again. And I believe with this approach you will always be disappointed because everything is constantly changing. Each time you play a phrase, your perception, the way you listen changes. Your body no longer feels exactly the same. Your thoughts change and you will struggle to replicate something that is disappearing into the past. Probably you will never achieve it exactly. So frustration, disappointment or worse are almost guaranteed. Therefore, I say repetition is not a productive, positive attitude. Of course, we strive to be consistent with the quality of our playing, to be reliably accurate in conveying our best musical intentions. However, I don't think this is the same as repeating. Most importantly, every time we come to play a concert, we will feel different. The acoustic will be different, the temperature, the humidity, our instrument may respond differently. Our colleagues will play differently. Nothing will be the same. If we're constantly striving for more in our practice, then every single time we play each phrase, we get used to breaking new ground. We notice more. We travel more deeply into the music. We become familiar with moving into the new. We become comfortable and ready for anything. As I mentioned earlier in this talk, like music itself, the journey of learning doesn't happen in a straight line. We have ups and downs, disappointments and frustrations, which is why I'd like to explain to you what I call the learning loop. The learning loop helps us understand the movement and momentum in the learning process. I'll stand up to explain. We start by learning and discovering things and building our knowledge. And this is a rising part of the curve. We learn, discover, we get involved in the music, and finally we come to a moment where there is so much information that we've discovered. We come to a saturation point and we start to stall in the curve, in that loop. And in that moment we can feel quite down because we feel that we try to achieve something and yet, perhaps it's not really working out the way we want it to. But then we go back and we look at things again and we see them in a new light, in a second light, and we gain additional knowledge and we start to move forwards, and again the momentum takes us up and onwards, and we are in the area of new discoveries and new knowledge until again we reach a saturation point and we stall and we start to come down. And this is again the danger moment. We can feel really bad. We can feel we've been working for so long. Why are we feeling so bad? Why are things not working out so well? It's really important at this moment in the learning loop to remind ourselves that actually we've come a long way from where we first started. This is just a moment in the learning loop, and it is completely natural that we have this stall and this from the saturation. So we should rejoin, relearn, gain some more knowledge, get the momentum back with enthusiasm. We move forwards again, and finally we get to, well, not finally, but we get to another point in the loop, and again this starts, but we are very, very far from where we started. My system trains your brain to think faster. Don't worry about spending a lot of time getting into the detail and depths of the music, as it will progressively become easier and quicker. Eventually, elements from the three stages will merge together, so that even when you are first learning some music, you will be looking more clearly at the structure, the musical detail, how you might interpret, the sounds you could use, and even how you might feel in performance. Let's remind ourselves that the purpose of practicing is to prepare a performance in which you play to the best of your ability with real confidence and with a real sense of expressive freedom. A performance where you enjoy showing what you have discovered in the music, communicating what you feel is the message of the music, unreservedly giving the gift of music. Thanks to you all for joining me. I know there's a lot to absorb, so do take your time going over the details, and remember you can send in any questions you have, big or small. I'll be answering questions in another video Wednesday next week, so your questions need to be in by May the 4th, please. We'll be continuing with the next lecture on Monday, May the 11th. The next topic is memorising. Keep well, keep safe, and bye for now.